G'day and welcome to another episode of Tech Adept Crafts, and welcome to a new year. My name is Anthony and today we are talking about dice towers. Again, we're talking about the scratch-built dice tower and how to build and paint it really simply, and the 3D printed tower and how to paint that really simply. Which of these do I prefer? Wait until the end and I'll tell you. I'll tell you why. But why am I painting these really simply? Well, I'd rather spend more time in playing the games than building this, and I don't get enough time to play games, so I didn't want to spend a lot of time in painting a dice tower, because I can roll the dice on the table. Oh dear, nat 1. But I'd much rather get a nat 20 in the dice tower. Oh my goodness, from nat 1 to nat 20, there we go. So these two, scratch built, foam and cardboard, really simple. This one from Thingiverse, it can actually stack together, great. This one does have some difficulties. Finding a clear bottle that is a straight cylinder, that's an issue. We had trouble and I ended up having to reprint at a smaller size. But you know what, that's a minor inconvenience. Knowing beforehand really helps. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and leave a comment down the bottom as to which dice tower you prefer, scratch built or 3D printed, and tell me what other sort of dice towers you'd love to see, because there's one available on Patreon right now from Tech Adept Crafts. Sit back, relax, enjoy the tutorial, and I'll see you very briefly at the end. Cheers. First thing we're doing is starting with the Pringles can. This is going to form the basis of the tower. I've cut a hole out for the dice to roll out the bottom, and I've got some strips to put on the inside for the dice to bounce down. These were attached to the inside with a hot glue gun. I attached that to the cardboard circle that I've got there, and I had some corrugated cardboard that I'll be using for the wall around the forecourt of the tower. For the bricks, I'm using insulation foam or XPS foam, and I'm cutting this into thin strips, which I am then cutting into smaller strips and cutting them into bricks in whole bunches. This saved a lot of time because once I had them bunched up, I could just slide them through, cut bricks at random shapes and intervals, and it just made it a hell of a lot faster. I then put those bricks into a tin along with some rocks and just gave it a good maraca shake. And that gave some texture to the bricks on the outside, sort of crushing them in certain areas or just leaving a texture on the brick. By the end of it, I had a box full of bricks ready to go. That tower is just a little too tall for my liking, and I'm not looking forward to placing that many stone bricks. So I thought I'd cut it down a couple of inches. That'd give me a little bit more time to finish it. It also removes that lip at the top of the Pringles can, which would have been an ugly mess to deal with at the end. When I went to stick the can down, I realized that there really wouldn't be a lot of space attaching to that cardboard. So I created just a simple disc to place at the bottom of the Pringles can, lowered it down by removing some of the cardboard layering, and that gave me enough purchase to stick the Pringles can onto that forecourt disc. And now for the bricklaying, which is just time consuming. That's all it is. You don't really have to think about this, just lay bricks. If they're not the right shape, give them a squeeze, push them into the space that you have available. Or if you come up with a brick that is not quite long enough or not quite short enough, just cut another piece. It's really simple. I have a box full of bricks there, and I don't need to think about this as I'm going around. Just pick up a brick, place it. The haphazard randomness actually really adds to the overall aesthetic of the tower when it's finished, I think. Alright, enough of that. Tower is done. I need to place a roof on the top, so I've cut that flush and cutting a hole for the dice to go down, because it'd be a bit pointless to now block that in. And this will have a trim of balsa wood later, because that will be a lot easier to then fill in the gaps of the corrugated cardboard. I'm putting this flush with the bricks because I'm going to put a crenellation around the outside of that later. And that crenellation is going to go double thickness brick, just to give extra strength in there, because it doesn't have the Pringles can to support it. Now it's going to be just the bricks. Oh, that age-old quandary. Square bricks in round holes. Okay, well, foam is really easy to work with. Simple solution. Pinch one side so that they have a shape more like a kernel of corn. For the forecourt, I'm using this roll of corrugated cardboard that I have, and I've cut it into strips, and I'm putting them back to back so that the teeth of the cardboard actually lock together. This is giving it a lot of strength, because of course this is where the dice are going to hit. I've now got two of these rollers from an episode that I did back last year, the stone texture rollers, and I've got now one in resin. I've used these on very thin strips of foam that I'm applying to the outside of that corrugated cardboard and the inside. Double layer, really nice and thick, and then a brick paving over the top. For the gate, I'm using these wooden sticks, just hobby wooden sticks, and I'm cutting them into slats that I then place as palings for the gate with a simple slat on top, which is angled to give the effect of a front gate. For the rest of the wooden slats and beams, I am using balsa wood, as it is a lot easier to carve up and sculpt as needed. Onto the painting. I'm using Modpodge with black paint added into it and then just watering it down slightly, putting this over the entire model to act as a sealant. After that has dried, I will be giving it a spray of a black primer. But if I spray first of all onto that foam, it's going to melt the foam. So this Modpodge will act as a sealer over the top of that. If you'd like to support the channel, you can jump on over to Patreon and join us there at patreon.com/techadaptcrafts. At a coin for the bud, you are simply supporting the channel and I greatly appreciate that. At the Hobby Goodness, you are getting an STL file designed by Ian Lovecraft every month. And at the Full Tackle, you also get access to a live stream done by myself every month where we either paint or build something. Give a shout out now to the tacklers, as their support is really, really appreciated. Andreas Rocco, Chad Harvey, David Bennett, David Scaberis, Ian and Ty O'Connell, Jean McGuire, Judy Hayes, Kent Rutherford, Christina B, Lopiana, Night Lurker, Riri, Sean McKinley, Thomas Hernandez, and Toggers. Thanks guys. The support that you give goes every month to helping Anala, and they really, really appreciate the support as well. Now with the paint and spray on there, I'm realizing that the lines from the corrugated cardboard are still showing through way too much for my liking in that forecourt. So I've taken some cereal box card, cutting large flagstones and just placing them down here in a fairly haphazard manner, covering that whole forecourt area. Gluing them down with PVA glue, and then I do have to reapply the Mod Podge over the top of this once it's dry. To keep a darker tile, I am not going to apply a grey paint first. I'm going to go straight to a grey dry brush. This will leave that brickwork a lot darker than what I usually do, and I think that actually works well in this regard. I then do a light grey dry brush over the top of that to pick out the edges and around the flagstones on the forecourt. And then on this trim around the forecourt, I use a brown oil wash. I also use that oil wash to go over all of the woodwork around the piece, and then it's done. Quick, simple, effective. Done. There'll be some photos at the end, but now we move on to the second part of this project, which is the 3D printed dice tower. This one is the one from Thingiverse. I've printed this out at 100% and it's done. I now have to find a bottle. This Alka power bottle is the only one that we could find that was simple, cylindrical, without any ridges, but in the end it actually turned out too small by just a fraction, so I reprinted at I think 97%. Removing that label, it was very sticky. Thank you very much to my lovely wife. She has cleaned that up for me while I was busy painting other things. Using that turret guard as a guide, I'm scoring the bottle, which I'll then cut out to fit. It's right about now I discover that that small difference in size really makes a difference when trying to put it over the staircase. So reprint, now fits perfectly, cut it to size. Once it's ready, I just spray it grey, put a black wash, and then the brown oil wash. I'll put the link above to Jeremy's recipe over at Black Magic Craft for that black wash, but in a moment I'll show you how to do that oil wash yourself. You can use any sort of oil thinner or linseed oil, which works well with oil paints, and I'm mixing their burnt umber oil paint with mineral turpentine. And you want a consistency where you can see it streaking on the side of that glass. That then is ready for your wash. I'm putting this over everything. I'm really just keeping these paint jobs very, very simple in these. And once they are dry, I'm doing a mid and light grey dry brush. Nothing fancy in either of these two paint jobs. It is really designed to be quick and simple and get the piece ready for playing. It's going to have dice rattling around it anyway, so the paint could get chipped off. I'm not going to go to a huge amount of detail in these. Time to glue it all together with Superglue, and it's basically done. Now I promised to tell you which one of these two pieces I enjoy the most. Can you guess? Even though I love 3D printing so much, this piece has its issues for me. Not being able to find the right piece to fit over that spiral that I really didn't enjoy about the print. Having to reprint it, inconvenient, but you know what, you can find a workaround. You can put clear photocopy overhead sheets or acetone sheets. They could be colored, they could be clear. That could work. Haven't tried it, but I'm sure it could work. But for my money, I prefer the scratch build. It was a very enjoyable project. I really like the way that it has turned out. I like the look, I like the feel. It is a good, solid piece, and it fits with most of my other terrain far better than a clear tower. The clear tower is interesting and fun, but my money is on this scratch build. Will it stop me from 3D printing? Absolutely not. At the end of the day, the 3D printed one is far faster. You can get it done in a fraction of the time. But for enjoyment in the hobby, that Dice Tower scratch build, that has my vote. Until next time, guys, cheers, take care, stay safe.